When my aunt walked into court claiming my parents' house belonged to her, she had a lawyer, fake documents, and a sob story. I had a folder of her own emails. By the time I finished reading the first one out loud, her lawyer was packing his briefcase. Here's what happened. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I love seeing where this story reaches. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button. These stories take time to put together, and your support means everything. I still remember the weight of that purple folder in my hands. Standing in my dad's office 3 days after the funeral, breathing in the lingering scent of his aftershave. The house was so quiet, empty in a way it had never been before, like it knew they weren't coming back. I found it hidden beneath a stack of tax returns from 2019. Not in the filing cabinet where important documents belonged, but taped to the underside of his desk drawer. The kind of hiding place you only find if you're looking, or if someone wanted you to find it. The folder was heavy. 47 emails. Each one printed, dated, and highlighted in yellow. My father's precise handwriting across the top. Evidence. Do not throw away.
I didn't understand then.
Why he'd hidden them. Why he'd been collecting them for years. Why he'd marked certain sentences with that bright yellow highlighter. My fingers trembled as I opened to the first page. The timestamp showed 5:17 a.m. 5 years earlier. From my aunt to someone I didn't know. The subject line read, Property Acquisition Plan. And the first highlighted sentence made my blood run cold. Once they're gone, the house will be mine. Just need to be patient. But I didn't know then what those emails would reveal. Or why my dad had hidden them where only I would find them. I couldn't have imagined what my aunt had been planning for 5 years. Or what my parents discovered right before they died. Because this wasn't just about a house. This was about what my aunt had been hiding. And the lengths she would go to keep her secrets buried. Even if it meant burying my parents first. My parents were everything to me. Mom with her endless patience. The way she'd listen like your problems were the only thing that mattered in the world. Dad with his booming laugh and his ridiculous dad jokes that somehow never got old. They built that house themselves, pouring every spare dollar into making it perfect. Not fancy, just ours. After they died, that house was all I had left. Every corner held a memory. The height marks on the kitchen door frame. The dent in the living room wall from when I tried to learn indoor baseball at age 7. The garden my mom had tended every spring. Walking through those rooms was like having conversations with ghosts, painful but necessary. What terrified me most wasn't just losing the house, it was losing them all over again. Being truly alone. Having nothing left to touch, to see, to remember them by. And then there was Aunt Karen, my mother's sister. Growing up, she was always around, always helping, always there with a casserole and a sympathetic smile. The perfect aunt on the surface. She never had children of her own. Never married. My career is my baby, she'd say with that tight little smile. I didn't see it then. The way she'd walk through her house like she was measuring it. The way she'd ask my dad about his will at family dinners. Just being practical, she'd say. Someone has to think about these things. The way she hugged me at the funeral, like she'd already won. Karen was the executor of my parents' will. To make things easier for you, sweetie, my mom had explained years ago. She knows all about legal matters with her real estate background. God, if only they'd known. If only they'd seen what was coming. My cousin James was the only one who believed me from the start. We grew up together, practically siblings. There's always been something off about her, he told me the night after the funeral. The way she looks at things like she's calculating their value. I thought I knew her. I was wrong. 3 days after we buried my parents, she showed up with a locksmith. I was upstairs sorting through Mom's clothes when I heard the front door open. I'm sorry, but this has to happen now, Karen said when I came downstairs. The locksmith looked uncomfortable, glancing between us. I'm the executor, and I need to secure the property. Secure it from what? I asked. From me? I live here. That's when she pulled out the papers. Legal documents, with official stamps. Her reading glasses perched on her nose like she was about to explain homework to a child. Your parents remortgaged this house 2 years ago, she said, voice dripping with fake sympathy. They put it in my name to protect it from creditors. It was always understood I would inherit it. She touched my arm. They didn't want to worry you. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, it almost sounded true. Almost. That's not possible, I said. They own this house outright. Dad showed me the papers when I turned 18. Her smile tightened. People keep secrets, sweetheart. Even parents. That night, after refusing to leave and forcing her to back down temporarily, I called James. He connected me with his friend Ellie, a junior lawyer at a local firm. Don't sign anything, Ellie advised over the phone. Don't move out. Look through everything your parents left. There has to be documentation. That's when I found the folder. Purple. Hidden in Dad's desk drawer under tax documents from 2019. I'd been searching frantically for property deeds, for anything to disprove Karen's claims. 47 printed emails. Dated. Highlighted in yellow. And at the top, in my dad's handwriting. Evidence. Do not throw away. I didn't sleep that night. I read every single email. And with each one I realized my dad knew. He knew what she was planning. He'd been collecting evidence for years. Quietly. Methodically. Like he'd known someday I would need it. Like he'd known he wouldn't be here to protect me when that day came. The next morning, I woke to a formal eviction notice taped to the front door. Karen had filed emergency paperwork claiming I was trespassing. I had 72 hours to vacate her property. Ellie agreed to represent me, but warned it wouldn't be easy. She's got paperwork that looks legitimate, she said, scanning the documents Karen had filed. Signatures that match your parents'. Notary stamps. Filing dates. This wasn't thrown together overnight. Look at these. I pushed the folder across the table. My dad collected these. They prove she's been planning this for years. Ellie spent hours reading through them, making notes, her expression growing darker with each page. This is methodical, she finally said. These emails discuss forging signatures, creating backdated documents. But we need to prove they're authentic emails. That became my mission. While Ellie filed motions to delay the eviction, I worked to verify the emails. I tracked down the people Karen had corresponded with. A notary whose stamp she'd borrowed. A banker friend who advised her on how to make the transfers look legitimate. A real estate attorney who later cut ties with her. Most refused to talk to me. Some hung up at the mention of Karen's name. But each reaction told me something. My father's evidence was real. The fear was real. Meanwhile, Karen turned my family against me. She's having a breakdown, she told everyone. Poor thing can't accept that her parents had financial problems. They protected her from the truth, and now she's invented this conspiracy. Cousins I'd grown up with stopped returning my calls. Uncles and aunts sent sympathetic messages suggesting grief counseling. Just let Karen handle things, my mother's best friend advised. She knows what she's doing. I thought the worst email was the one about forging signatures. I was wrong. As the court date approached, I found something I'd missed. An email chain buried in the middle of the folder. The subject line made my heart stop. Insurance policy confirmation. Karen had taken out a life insurance policy on my parents. $3 million. Dated 4 months before the accident. And then I found the email from 6 months before my parents died. The one with the subject line, "We need to talk about what you did." It was from my father to Karen. No text in the body. Just that subject line. Like a warning. I wasn't just fighting for a house anymore. I was fighting for the truth. The emails weren't just about the house. They were about money. A lot of money. 2 weeks before court, James helped me break into an old external hard drive of my dad's. We found spreadsheets. Financial records. Evidence that Karen had been embezzling from the family business for years. Nearly $2 million, siphoned through shell companies and offshore accounts. Dad had discovered it 6 months before the accident. That's why he'd started collecting the emails. That's what the subject line meant. We need to talk about what you did. It hit me like a truck. Karen didn't just want the house. She needed it. Because hidden somewhere on the property was evidence that could send her to prison. Dad's original financial records. Documentation that would expose everything. The house is just the beginning, I told Ellie, my voice shaking. She's hiding something bigger. Something my parents found out. Be careful, Ellie warned. If she's willing to forge documents and lie to a court, what else might she do? That night, alone in the house, I went through every room, looking at it through new eyes. Not as my childhood home, but as a place that held secrets. Dangerous ones. I remembered how Karen had insisted on supervising when I packed up Dad's office after the funeral. How she'd asked for his laptop for sentimental reasons. How she'd volunteered to clean out the attic herself. And that's when I realized, if she was willing to lie about this, what else had she lied about? What did my parents really know about her? The police said it was an accident. A tragic crash on a rainy night. No other cars involved. But my dad's last email to her was sent the morning of the crash. Subject line: I'm going to the police. I checked the accident report again. The brake lines had failed. Maintenance issue, the report said. Corroded over time. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. As the court date approached, Karen escalated. A cease and desist letter arrived from her lawyer, threatening defamation charges if I continued spreading malicious lies. Then a formal psychological evaluation request claiming I was mentally unfit due to grief. The night before the hearing, someone broke into the house. My laptop was gone. The purple folder was gone. They'd torn apart Dad's office, pulled up floorboards, cut open furniture. I called the police, but they just took a report. Family dispute, the officer said dismissively. Civil matter. No one believed me. My own cousins called me paranoid. Said grief was making me see things that weren't there. Even James started to have doubts when Karen showed him proof that my parents had been hiding financial problems. Maybe there's truth on both sides, he suggested gently. Maybe Dad did find something, but also maybe they did remortgage the house. I stood in my parents' empty bedroom that night, surrounded by the destruction of the break-in. Clothes strewn across the floor. Mattress slashed open. Their wedding photo smashed. Maybe I should just let it go. Maybe she'd already won. The hearing was in 12 hours and I had nothing. No folder.
No emails. No proof.
I had copies, of course, digital backups. But would they be enough? Her lawyer would say I fabricated them. That grief made me desperate. That I'd created elaborate fakes because I couldn't accept that my parents had kept financial secrets from me. I sat on the floor of their bedroom, back against the wall, and cried for the first time since the funeral. Not delicate tears, but ugly, heaving sobs that left me gasping. I wasn't just losing a house. I was losing them all over again. I almost didn't go to court that day. Part 7. The turning point. Then I remembered something my dad used to say. The truth doesn't need you to believe it. It just needs you to speak it. At 3 a.m., unable to sleep, I went to the garden. Mom's garden. The place where she'd spent every weekend, hands in the dirt, humming to herself. I sat on the little stone bench, looking at the moonlit flowers she'd never see bloom again. That's when it hit me. The one place Karen would never look. The one place that meant nothing to her, but everything to my mother. Under the stone bench was a loose paver. Mom kept a spare key there. But when I lifted it, there was something else. A waterproof pouch. Inside, a thumb drive and a handwritten note in my mother's writing. For our child. If anything happens to us, this is the truth. We love you. Be brave. I ran back inside and plugged it into my old desktop computer. Video files.
Dozens of them.
My parents had recorded everything. Conversations with Karen where she didn't know she was being taped. Phone calls on speaker. My father confronting her about the embezzlement. Her threats. Her slip-ups about the house. And metadata. Email headers. Bank records. Everything authenticated and timestamped. The last video was dated the morning they died. Mom and Dad sitting side by side at the kitchen table. If you're watching this, Dad said, something has happened to us. We're meeting Karen today to tell her we're going to the authorities. We've backed up everything on this drive and with our lawyer. He named a firm I'd never heard of in the next county.
We love you, Mom said.
Whatever happens, remember that. And remember, the truth just needs to be spoken, Dad finished. I walked into that courtroom with one goal. Make her tell the truth. Even if I had to read every single email out loud. I wasn't that scared kid anymore. I was my father's daughter. And I was going to finish what he started. Before I tell you about what happened in court, if you're loving the story, please hit that like button. And drop a comment telling me, have you ever had a family member betray you like this? I read every single one. Karen arrived at the courthouse flanked by her lawyer and two of my uncles. She wore black, like she was still in mourning. Her lawyer, an expensive-looking man with a gold watch and perfect teeth, smirked when he saw Ellie, a junior attorney against a senior partner. David versus Goliath. The judge was an older woman with silver hair and piercing eyes. She reviewed the filings silently while we waited. Your Honor, Karen's lawyer began, this is a straightforward case. Ms. Wilson has legal title to the property in question, transferred to her 2 years ago by the deceased. Their daughter, unfortunately suffering from grief-induced delusions, has refused to vacate. The judge turned to Ellie. And your response? Ellie stood. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Wilson fabricated those transfer documents. Evidence that she has been planning to seize this property for years. Evidence that the deceased discovered her scheme and were preparing to expose her just before their deaths in a suspicious car accident. Karen's lawyer scoffed. Inflammatory accusations without foundation. That's when I handed Ellie the thumb drive. Your Honor, she said, we'd like to present new evidence discovered last night.
Karen's face changed.
Something flickered behind her eyes.
Fear.
The judge allowed it. A court officer took the drive, checked it for viruses, then loaded it onto the courtroom display system. The first file was an email from Karen to her financial advisor, dated 5 years earlier. I'll never forget reading it aloud to the court. My voice shook at first, then steadied. Martin, I've found a solution to our problem. My sister and her husband own their house outright, worth at least $1.2 million in today's market.
No mortgage.
When they die, it goes to their kid. But I've been thinking, what if it came to me instead? I'm working on a plan. If I can get title transferred without them realizing it, everything is solved. Our little problem goes away. Karen's lawyer interrupted. Your Honor, this is obviously fabricated. But the judge held up her hand. Continue. The next email was from Karen to a document specialist known for less than legal services. Details about my parents' signatures. Requests for backdated paperwork. Then the videos began playing. My father confronting Karen in our living room. Her face when she realized he knew about the embezzlement. Her voice, crystal clear on the recording. You can't prove anything, John. And if you try, I'll destroy you. I'll take everything, your reputation, your business, your home. By the time I'm done, your precious daughter will be living in a shelter. When I read the line about making it look like an accident, her face went white. The judge asked her to stand. Her lawyer didn't even wait for a recess. Just packed his briefcase and walked out. I'm withdrawing from this case, Your Honor, he said. I was not aware of these developments. Your Honor, I have 46 more emails, I said, standing tall. Would you like me to continue? Karen collapsed back into her chair. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she whispered. Not to the judge.
To me.
They weren't supposed to be in the car together. Just John. Just the driver's side brake line. Sarah wasn't supposed to. She stopped, realizing what she'd admitted. The courtroom went silent. The judge's voice cut through the stillness. This hearing is adjourned. Ms. Wilson will remain in custody pending criminal charges. The property will remain with the rightful heir. She looked at me with something like compassion. I am very sorry for your loss, young lady. The truth didn't just set me free. It destroyed her. Karen was charged with multiple felonies, forgery, fraud, attempted grand theft, and ultimately, 2 counts of second-degree murder. The brake line hadn't corroded over time. It had been deliberately cut, just enough to fail after about 20 minutes of driving. She took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. 40 years with no possibility of parole. At the sentencing hearing, she wouldn't look at me, wouldn't look at anyone. The woman who'd been so confident, so calculating, sat hunched and hollow-eyed in her prison jumpsuit. I kept the house. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because it was the last place I felt close to them. I renovated my mom's garden, expanded it with all the flowers she'd circled in her seed catalogs but never got to plant. Every spring, it explodes with color. Like she's still there, hands in the dirt, humming to herself. The family splintered after the trial. Some relatives couldn't accept what Karen had done. Others couldn't face their own complicity in believing her lies. James and I remain close. He helped me sort through the remaining financial mess, making sure the embezzled funds were returned to their rightful places. I visit their graves every Sunday, and I tell them, I finished what you started. I protected what you built, and I made sure she could never hurt anyone else. The thumb drive revealed one more surprise. My parents had updated their will just before they died. They'd left provisions for college funds for underprivileged kids in our community. Everyone deserves a safe home and a good education, the will stated. Last year, the first 4 scholarship recipients graduated. I sat in the audience and cried through the entire ceremony. I still have the purple folder. I keep it in the same drawer where Dad hid it. Not because I need it anymore, but because it reminds me, the truth always wins, even when it takes time. To anyone watching this who's fighting their own battle, don't give up. Gather your evidence. Trust yourself. And when the time comes, let the truth speak. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it moved you, please subscribe. I share these stories because I believe they matter. Drop a comment with your thoughts. And remember, the truth is always worth fighting for. I'll see you in the next one.